they live.
Good speech. I call the honourable member Shane Ardern.
Well, thank you very much for that call, Mr. Speaker.
Kanakwe.
Mr. Speaker, I would really like to stand up and support the Prime Minister's statement for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is because it annoyed the Labor Party so much, and it also annoyed the Greens so much. That is the reason to support it in the first place. But let's just start talking about why we should be in support of this. The economy has grown, Mr. Speaker, by 3.5% since September 2012 to September 2013, and has been forecast to continue to grow in that light. Now, when you compare that, Mr. Speaker, with what's happening internationally, it is now being described as an economy that other people should take note of. And you need to ask the question why that might be. Well, there have been 66,000 new jobs, more people employed now than what there was. There had the growth in young employment, that is those that are either studying or are in some kind of educational activity or are employment, is 89%. That is an amazing increase on where it was. And Mr. Speaker, when you start asking the question why all of these things are happening, you start to look at, well, what are the drivers in the economy? And obviously in Taranaki, where I come from, and from the Taranaki King Country electorate, things like energy have had enormous growth in the life of this government. In the very recent life of this government, I'd have to add, if you take the kind of gestation period these kind of industries need to get going and start to establish. And when you look at what our alternative government might look like, it's a government that would put a handbrake on all of these developments, that would bring all of these developments to their knees. I know that colleagues in the House will not be surprised by the fact that I am now going to mention the primary sector. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the biggest driver of the New Zealand economy now and into the future, you will find that it is the primary sector. I know that surprises the Labor Party, and it certainly surprises the Green Party. In fact, they go into almost a meltdown when they learn that, when they hear that. The fact is that the growth in the New Zealand economy now and sometime in the present, into the future, will most likely come from the primary sector, and in particular the dairy industry, which is the biggest part of it. So what have our opponents had to say about these sectors? You know, comments from the Labor-Green opposition. Well, they've said that the sector is based on bulk commodities that they export in huge volumes with no added value and very, very poor investment in manufacturing. How wrong could you be? And the one that they add to that, the one they continually add to that, is that it's at the expense of the environment. It's at the expense of the environment. So let's run through those boxes, because you see, perception can often be greater than fact. Because the perception is, of course, Mr. Speaker, that the Green Party are made up of a bunch of hippies that smoke marijuana, wear sandals, sock cloth Morris dancers. And most of us know that that actually isn't true. There's at least 1% of them, that don't fit into that category. I mean, they may wear jackets, but they don't wear sandals. 1% of them. They certainly wear jackets, but not sandals. And so the perception of the Green Party is actually not right. No. In fact, when you look at the supporters of the Green Party, you'll find that a lot of them are urban professionals. Yeah, they are. One of the real ironies, I guess, of the Green Party is the members themselves come from urban New Zealand. Most Green Party members come from urban New Zealand. They do not come from rural New Zealand. They come from urban New Zealand. So the Green Party perpetuate the ramp that the agricultural sector is a sunset industry and will not have a future going forward. How wrong is that? When you look at the amount of investment in manufacturing in New Zealand, you'll find that actually the biggest investment in recent times has been a new powder plant, a new development in Darfield in Canterbury, a big powder plant built by the dairy industry. And it's not producing bulk commodities, as our opposition would have us believe. It's producing very sophisticated food ingredients and sometimes nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals at the very high end of the production chain. So let's just have a look at what the Green Party also say. And you know, there's an old saying, Mr. Speaker, that's been around for a long, long time, and it goes that physician, heal thyself, Mr. Speaker. So the Green Party, they live in urban New Zealand, and we know that some of the most polluted waterways in the country are in urban New Zealand. We know that. The science backs that up. The facts are that that is the case. So why don't they start on their own back door? Actually, I know one or two greenies that don't actually even recycle. How bad is that? They don't recycle. So the reality is, go and fix your own backyard before you marginalise and pick on what is a minority group, which is the agricultural sector, in the way that you do, and totally denigrate them in the way that you do, because you're factually wrong and it's time someone challenged you over it. So let's have a look at the combination, Mr. Speaker. Have a look at the combination of the Green Labour opposition and what they would do if they were in power. Well, the first thing they would do is they would introduce a capital gains tax. They've told us that. They said they were going to do that. The second thing is a methane emissions tax. The third thing is a higher personal tax. The fourth thing is a higher company tax. The fifth thing they would do is they're going to reverse the 90-day trial period. The 90-day trial period on employment. Then they're going to put in place restrictions on nitrogen use. Then they're going to put restrictions on water use. No. All of these things are absolutely what the Labour Green opposition have said over the last 3 years that they intend to do. They will do that.
Order.
So let's then have a look at what the effects of that will be, the flow-on effects of that. The flow-on effects of that will be that those young, aspirational, wannabe average New Zealand dairy farmers won't achieve their goal. They won't get there. And if they don't get there, then what happens? What happens then? What happens if they don't achieve their goal? What happens then? Well, first of all, the economy starts to fail. Secondly, what you end up with is overseas corporates more interested in buying New Zealand land because young New Zealanders can't compete with them. So what is going to be the response from the opposition to that? What are they going to do about that? What will their policy be? So let's come back to what this government's done. What this government is doing, it is actually making that dream much more of a reality. And so the young people that are aspirational coming through these industries, not unique to dairy, any one of the primary sector industries, wine, horticulture, viticulture, meat and wool, those young people now can see an opportunity, a pathway to achieve their goal, which is to own the average New Zealand farm or business, as it may be. And so what would our opponents do about them? Well, the first thing they would say to them is, well, to have the $4.5 million you must have to be able to get a 50% equity basis in the average New Zealand dairy farm, which now costs $9 million, we are going to tax you. You are a greedy capitalist. We will do what we can to put as many hurdles as we can in your way. And in doing that, you achieve the exact opposite, or the opposition achieves the exact opposite to what they hope to achieve, which is economic growth for the low socio-economic areas of New Zealand. Because the only way you can lift, Mr. Speaker, low socio-economic areas out of poverty and those things that the Green Party and the Labour Party campaign on all the time is to have an economy that can sustain jobs and growth and opportunities for those people. And it's something that the opposition Labour Party cannot and never have been able to understand. Without jobs through growth and business investment and opportunity, you will never achieve your goal. And actually, the real irony of that, Mr. Speaker, is that the environment ultimately suffers as well. Because without money, you don't get investment in environmental outcomes, such as the riparian margin planting that's going on in Taranaki, such as the science and investment that's now going into our global alliances, greenhouse gas emission alliances, etc. That kind of investment dries up as well. That type of philanthropic activity that goes on in society does not exist, and you get environmental deprivation as well. So what we have, Mr. Speaker, is a black and white comparison this time round. That is growth, prosperity, jobs and progress and good environmental outcomes versus deterioration in everything. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I call the honourable member Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to talk on the Prime Minister's statement, and I